And now, since we're 2 minutes after the hour, I'll go ahead and officially kick this off. Welcome to the Podman Community Meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. We generally meet on the first Tuesday of every even number of months here. Sometimes we'll move the timing and be a little friendlier for India, China, Australia, etc. Topics driven from this meeting for the next meetings, or from stuff that we get from the web, or coming in from any of the social medias or anytime. So if you have a topic you'd like to discuss here, we'd love to hear from you. Discussions don't have to be about Podman, especially. We're happy to take them for Buildoscopia or really anything that's related to containers or makes use of our tools. And we've got meeting notes in the HackMD, which we'll be taking care of during the day today. So yell at me if I type in anything there that's not good. And for our topics today, we're going to be talking about Podman 5.8 and 6.0, and Matt will be leading that one for us. Then we'll have a discussion on AI policy. Paul and Jan will be talking about that. And then we'll be talking about PQC for Matt Miloslav. And then if you have any other things that you'd like to talk about, we can talk about those at the end after those discussions. So with all that said, welcome everybody. And Matt, would you lead us off?
Sure. So I'll start off with the bad news, that being Podman 5.8. So our official upstream policy is that we release Podman once a quarter on the second week of the second month. So our expected release was second week of February, somewhere in the vicinity of the 10th to the 12th was our original target. So we are probably not going to make this release as a result of some late breaking features, which we're actually going to discuss a little later in the post quantum section. We are basically going to be focusing on getting these features in. And once we are confident that everything is good, we will cut a release candidate based on that. And once we have the release candidate, we're probably going to cut a final in short order, just with some quick testing to make sure everything seems fine. So I would still expect Podman 5.8 by end of February, but we are not going to make the original next week target. On the more positive front, Podman 6, which we're expecting second week of May, is starting to really shape up. We have almost all major features merged already. We're working on a few remaining things, such as how we're going to handle migrations from Podman 5 installations that are still using the legacy Bolt database, and the new configuration file feature that we have a design doc upstream about, actually. So both of those are going to be merging hopefully in the next couple months, and I think that we are very much on track for our next major. Any questions about this?
I just had a clarification question. We've got a REL release coming up. Are we planning 5.8 for that still, or are we going to 5.7?
That is still going to be 5.8. We are delaying for some new features that are required by the U.S. government on the post-quantum crypto land.
I have a more process-oriented question for the team, which is twofold. One is around why we're delaying the release. And the second is, if we delay releases, should this not have come to all core maintainers' attention for approval?
I think the second was definitely a valid point. We put this one in front of most of the Podman maintainers, but not all. We probably should have gotten 100% approval to do a true delay. Reason for the delay, as I said, is to land post-quantum cryptography related features. So we are trying to work to get, what is it, MLKEM and TLS 1.3 support. This is in the Go standard library, but it's not enabled by default. We're going to be patching it through so it's actually in configuration files that folks can toggle this on. I'll steal the bit from the PQC section and just say that this is a major upcoming requirement for U.S. government and related governments who are trying to secure their traffic against interception and then future decryption by quantum computer.
So it's fair to say that I think along the lines of my first question, which by the way, your response is fine. I think we need to document these kinds of things in our governance, Matt. Whatever we think the right thing to do here is, but then follow that. So perhaps 100% core maintainer agreement that a delay over a certain period of time would be appropriate to just kind of capture that. Along the same lines, though, I'm kind of curious, given that we're a CNCF project, and that this was delayed really in the interests of Red Hat, what are we going to do in the future for that kind of thing?
I mean, that's a
That's a team-wide question.
Yeah. I mean, we have to figure this out because this is not just a Red Hat project now, and we are trying to act like it. So I think that this is definitely, we need to have a process and need to follow the process. This is a pretty big feature and it does have users, but this is delaying releases is something we want to avoid. We went something like 2 years following our schedule, and I would have really liked it if we could have continued.
Right. I think trivial slips are one thing, and we can define whatever that is. But I think there's a point where we say, at least in this particular incident, it's not a trivial slip, and there's some process we need to follow there. And then why it slipped is concerning, given our current state.
I think, practically speaking, like this, we have an upstream schedule, and the easy choice is to follow that schedule and not make exceptions for whoever it is. And I think that would be more important. Like if certain vendors need certain things, then they have to patch them downstream or upstream then in time, like we cannot, I mean, without leaking things, but like there are certain things take time, and that needs to be addressed on that scale and not on we can appease upstream by forcing them to do X.
Any further comments or questions?
Is there anyone else on the team that has anything to offer in this situation or wants to say about how the governance should perhaps also reflect something? We don't probably want to dive deep into this, but right.
Yeah, Brent, I mean, I acknowledge that is everything you've said is true, and we're gonna have to work on a yeah, we're gonna have to work on making sure that's reflected in the governance. And I to be honest with you, this is the first time I've actually, I think in a long time, even been invited to this meeting as the product owner. I was an oversight on my part. But yeah, you're absolutely right that this is business driven. It was a business driven decision, not a community one. Although PQC, I think, is looming large over everybody using any technology at this point, at least in the U.S. So yeah, we're gonna have to do better.
Yeah, my only question is like, how bad is to postpone the feature for like 3 months, like, just to wait both?
Well, from a Red Hat perspective, extremely bad. From an upstream perspective, we could probably live with it, but I would like to have a lot of this stuff enabled prior to Podman 6.1 in the summer, because that is going to be our big PQC release. That's going to have all the fancy new SHA-512 stuff.
Yeah. Me personally, it's my own opinion is we don't wait for the PQC. We release 5.8 and then we get the PQC in either at 5.8.1 or 5.9, whenever that is that fits into the real product. That's the way I think it should go, but that's my two
We can
cents.
certainly do that, but then we start maintaining. We wouldn't be able to get into upstream, basically. We do not do feature backports, and this is definitely a feature.
Then it becomes 5.9.
Is there any opportunity for this to slip further, Matt? Are we dependent on anyone else? Or do you see any possibility that this could?
No, this is all that's remaining is on our end. The work itself is relatively simple, although it's not trivial, and there's a fair bit of it. The actual coding work is we are going to enable TLS 1.3 VAT option, so it's just plumbing through to containers conf. But there is a fairly significant amount of verification and validation work to ensure that we are always using these settings. So anytime we initiate a HTTP connection, it needs to be using the single good set of TLS options that we provided, if that makes sense.
And does is it going into 6.0, in the main and then being backported or cherry picked from there?
Yeah, that would be my expectation. Miloslav is right now focused on getting it into C image main, so it's definitely going to be ready for 6.
Cool.
Okay, anything else here? I am going to ask that folks, if you're going to be speaking, unless you've got some network issues at your location, to please put your video on while you're speaking. And you can turn it off if you're not speaking if you'd like. It just makes the replays work a whole lot better. So given that, we are going to move on to our second topic for today, and that is an AI policy, and that is Jan and Paul, I believe. I'm not sure who's taking that. Go ahead, gents.
Hey, do you hear me? Okay, so basically I started doing PR reviews recently more often in recent weeks, and there were some things I noticed, and that's resulted in the policy I would like to propose, maybe together with Paul. I shared the Google Doc in the chat, and the goal of this is basically ask people here to read the policy and comment it, so we can actually see what people think about it. The policy tries to address few things. I just noticed that some contributors use the AI in a way that is too extensive, maybe, like copy pasting the output of the ChatGPT or other AI model to comments instead of writing the comments themselves, which is kind of impersonal. And another issue with that is that it produces long comments, and the comment is produced in few seconds, but the maintainers have to read it all, which is time consuming. And the same thing could be said in few sentences, but because of the AI, it's kind of really long and unedited. So another issue which I'm trying to address there is the use of AI to generate code without actually knowing what the code does. And to give you one example, recently I found a PR. I was reviewing PR where the author did a code. I asked for some changes in the code, and as a result, next day I found out the completely different code in the PR, which was addressing my issues, but it was clearly like regenerated from the scratch, and I had to read the code again, from the scratch, because there was no same thing as before. And I think we should have some policy where we can like maybe defend ourselves more, or like say this is not acceptable, and you should basically like change the code according to the review in a minimal way, or you should just write the commit message yourself in your voice, basically, so it's clear that you understand what the code is about. And other projects, they have similar policies. The policy I wrote here is actually based on policy of other project which Paul found. So I think that's for the introduction. What I'm really looking for is for more people to read it, think about it, and add your opinions in the document. I do not think we have another thing to do right now. So that's all. And if Paul wants to add something on top of what I said, feel free, Paul.
I think your document is private. If we want to discuss that in the open, you should probably paste it.
I think that one is not private. The one I sent in the chat. I see people there. It's different one than we use
okay,
internally.
It's not
because,
the okay. It's,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue is that the internal one, I couldn't find out a way how to make it public for everyone, so I just copied it, and we will continue here in this public document where it should be from the beginning. So that's it.
Yeah, you cannot make it public from
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I just didn't saw that. Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to speak up here and say how they feel as a maintainer, or maybe as a contributor even, on how things are being used and what they like to see. I mean, we cannot just writing something down will not make this go away, but I think having a policy is a good step to post that somewhere, and if people don't follow that, we close the PRs and don't engage further with them, basically.
Sounds good. Jan, unless you have problems with this, I think I'll go ahead and throw this out on social media for people to take a look at as well, just to try and get it out. Have you sent it to email or anything?
No, I didn't send an email. Feel free to actually share it wherever you like.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. And okay, if I tag your email in there, if people have questions,
fine. That's fine.
Comments. Yep. Ready? Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So given that, we'll move on to the next topic, which is PQC from Matt and Miloslav. And I think this is the problem with 5.8 at the moment anyway, at least part of it. Or at least part of it, if we could speak English today. Go ahead, Matt or Miloslav.
I guess I'll start and Miloslav can fill in the blanks. So this one is something that people probably will not notice if we do our jobs right for a while, but when it does happen, it's probably going to be rather noticeable. How to begin this? So governments, unlike a lot of people, parts of governments at least, think in a long term, where data that we're sending now may need to remain classified, secret, whatever, for the next 50 to 100 years. It would be very bad if we sent data using cryptography that gets broken in 50 years and people find out about things they're not supposed to find out about. So part of this is why the US is presently leading a big push for post-quantum cryptography, basically cryptographic primitives that are safe against quantum computers. Part of this is signatures, container signatures. As of Podman 5.8, I believe, we have full support for post-quantum signatures. So we can both create and pull and verify images that have these new types of signatures that have absolutely giant public keys but are secure against quantum computers. So that's pretty neat. Stage 2 is Podman 5.8, which is going to drag in TLS 1.3. Now we're encrypting all your traffic over the wire with it, so you can verify container images are appropriately safe against someone with a quantum computer. You can verify your traffic isn't being harvested and decrypted later. That's pretty neat. But the big change, the one that people on this call are probably going to care about, is that at some point in the middle of this year, we're going to start enabling support for SHA-512 image hashes. So it has been decided that SHA-256 is no longer safe against potential quantum computers. And as such, we're going to have the ability to optionally generate images using SHA-512 digests for basically everything you had SHA-256 before. The most immediate thing you're going to see from that is that in your display output, all of your image IDs are suddenly going to be a lot larger than they used to be. So our expectation is that this should be sufficiently natively integrated into the ecosystem that supporting registries will be able to use these images, probably not all registries initially, but supporting registries. And we should be able to mix 512 and 256 images in local storage without much of an issue. So you will be able to continue using your existing ones. We have no plans to deprecate 256, but for those who really care about it, they will be able to force 512 only. And for those who don't care at all, you may start seeing images pop up in your image store that you had no idea why, but they suddenly have very long image IDs. Miloslav, anything you want to add to that, or?
I think one small correction, the post-quantum TLS is available by default when you compile with a recent enough Go version. So all users are going to get that protection. The thing that we are adding is the ability to further constrain it so that you can say, I only want TLS 1.3 and no downgrades. And for signatures, there are two formats of signatures: the old style atomic simple signing GPG-based signatures and SIG-Stor signatures with BICOSign. We have support for post-quantum signature for Sequoia PGP-backed signatures in the GNU-PG format, and that either has or will soon have post-quantum backend. For the SIG-Stor signatures, which are more modern and more convenient, there is more work to be done. We first need to catch up with cosign version 3, and there is a separate team at Red Hat working to add post-quantum to that, but that will land sometime in the future. Yeah, and as Matt said, something will happen to image IDs, and we are going to announce with Podman 6 that they are not going to be guaranteed to be equal to config digests in the future. Because we are changing the format some way, we don't know exactly what way, but if you have any code that prevents SHA-256 to an image ID, that is certainly going to break one way or another. That's it, I think.
Excuse me. Okay, any further questions, comments? Well, thank you, Matt and Miloslav. On the chat, I was contacted by Martin, who wanted to talk about Podlet related news. And Martin, I'm going to send it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm the new maintainer of the Podlet project. I'm the second one, to be exactly. And the first one is Paul Nettleton. He's back on track now. And together we released, after 2 years, the first Podlet release. That was yesterday. So that's really a huge news for us all. So thank you for letting me take part in the Podlet project. And I have two questions about the organization. the organizational part for the Podlet project, because there's another repository named Compose Spec for Rust. It's this link here. Paul Nettleton wrote or is still contributing to that library as it's needed for the Rust project in Podlet. And we wanted to ask if we can change the ownership from Paul Nettleton to the containers project. So Paul and I can take care of that Compose Spec RS repository. And it's only used for the Podlet project. So without that repository, Podlet can't be developed. So that's why we thought it's a good idea to also move that one to the containers organization.
Hi, Martin. Congratulations. We were actually just talking about this in a maintainers meeting within the last 10 days or so. And so let's, if you're willing, and there are no objections already here today, which I'll open the floor back up to. We would like for you to file an issue on the Podman repo with your request to have this so-and-so project moved to the containers repo, and that way it can be openly and publicly seen, and we can sign it and work through it. But I'll open the floor up to others.
Yeah, great. I will do that. If everyone is fine with that, I would like to ask the second question. It's about our organizational part in the Podlet project, because we also want to discuss our ongoing development process or also questions from the community in the Discord server. But we don't want to split the community and create another Discord server for the Podlet project, but we wanted to ask if we can get some channels on the Podman Discord server. So we would like to get a Podlet channel and a Podlet dev channel, so we can discuss openly what's going on with the project. That being said, Paul Holzinger already wrote me something about that, because there's a bridge for Discord to what was the other one? Matrix, to the Matrix server. From my side, I don't need the Matrix bridge for both channels. So I wanted to ask the community if it's fine if we can get two channels, or what do you think what's best for the project?
So in my opinion, I don't think anybody from like the core Podman team is hanging out much on Discord. So that's why I suggested maybe moving elsewhere is better for you, because we don't moderate that actively on that end. I think the Podman desktop team is also in that server, right? I think they might be more active. I'm not sure what their status is, so maybe we should talk to them as well. I mean, I don't really care too much about channels, like having extra channels or something, but I mean, somebody needs to at least look at them and moderate them if needed.
That's
So
correct.
that's
My problem with opening another server is also that I have seen that some users are asking Podlet related questions on the Podman channel, because they are trying to figure out how to get Podman to get compose YAML files into systemd Podlet files, and therefore I also have to check what's going on the Podman channel, and so maybe it's best to have another Podlet channel near to the Podman channel so the users can see what's going on. That's my intention on my side. But if it's okay, I can also create another issue in the Podman channel, if that would help discussing the whole situation.
Yeah, Martin, I think it sounds like I think we would like to support you here. If you can just send through a request of what channels you want, but I think we might want to have the automatic matrix thing. Lokesh is probably not on because it's late.
not. He's off today.
But we probably can link the stuff up for you too. So
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
want to just send through a request and we can try to figure it out, help you out.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I
Martin, I think-
understand not wanting to run your own Discord server and things like that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you wouldn't mind, I think probably the easiest thing to do would be for you to create a new issue with the exact names of the channels that you
Mhm.
want, just to make sure that we don't mess up, an eye for an E kind of switch kind of
Yeah.
thing. If you could put those out on an issue, then I'll have Lokesh take a look, and I can possibly take a look. As long as there's no objections, I don't see a reason that we couldn't get the channel set up for you there.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
No further questions from my side.
Okay, well, I'm going to see if anybody has any for you. Anybody have questions for Martin about the
Maybe.
Podlet?
But I can also reach out on the Podman Discord channel if they want to.
Yes, there you go. Right, with that, I'm going to thank you, Martin. And thanks for the update and congratulations again. I'm going to open up for any other questions that people have. And while people are thinking about that, we'll say that we are having our next Podman community meeting on Tuesday, April 7th at 11 a.m. And our next Cabal meeting is coming up on the 3rd again, but on March. And that's just 4 weeks away from today. So I am always looking for topics for either one of those meetings. So please let me know if you have some or add them to the agendas as we go along during the month. And any other one last call then for questions, topics, thoughts?
Well,
Not here, but-
very minor note is there's been conversation in OpenShift about there being a machine config for adding additional layer stores, which is great, and they allude to in Podman 6 there being drop-ins for storage.conf. Does that match people's understanding?
Podman 6 should support drop-ins of storage.conf, definitely, and like all the other files as well. Like most of them do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have to report that answer that question to a customer. So thanks you so much.
No problems. Thanks for bringing it up.
Paul, are
Go
you
ahead, Marcel.
sure about the drop-ins in C storage? It's entirely up to
Repeat.
you. Just I think that would mean using the attributed string throughout the API.
I mean, the design doc specifies using this syntax of drop-ins, so that is supposed to be there. How we get there, we can certainly discuss.
Great. One last call before I head us off to lunch, dinner, or other things. All right, folks, I think that's a wrap. Thanks a bunch for coming. Thanks, folks who were presenting for us today, and we'll see you next month.